Good evening, everybody. It's Carol Milletta from the Parenting 411 with another edition of News You Can Use. This evening, I'm going to be joined by Phyllis Lacy of Quantum Studios. She and her team give children skills in technology. And we all know that technology touches every facet of our lives, whether it's the gadgets in our home, our electronic devices, social media, all of that. And so she is doing her part to make sure that our children are prepared for the technology and the technological age that they will encounter. I mean, can you even imagine technology playing a bigger role in their lives than what we're experiencing right now? And so, like I said, it's her mission to just make sure our children are prepared to leverage technology, not be controlled by it, and really be able to live fulfilling lives, to have rewarding careers in the STEAM areas. And so I'm really happy to have her on this evening, and I'm going to welcome her to the stage right now.
Good
Hello,
evening.
Phyllis.
Good evening, Carol.
Thank you so much for joining. And every now and again, you will see me looking over, just checking the feed to see if there are any questions that might come up as we're having our discussion. But while I check that, why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about Quantum Studios?
Okay, well, thank you for having me this evening. And Quantum Studios started about 2012, and we started off offering web design classes. We became partners with local community college, and just to rewind a little bit, let me tell you a little bit about myself, and it'll kind of link it together a little bit.
Sure.
A little bit more. My background is in art education, and I had always studied art since kindergarten. We lived in various places throughout the United States. My father was in the Air Force. So wherever we went, I would join a class, took a class in drawing, painting, sculpture, sewing, and all the way up through high school. And when it was about time to go to college, I told my mom, I want to go to college for art. And she was an educator. My father was a business and communications major. And she said, you need to take your art and combine it with education and go to school to become an art teacher. And back then, there weren't a lot of choices that you could take to be successful. You could dabble in this or that. And I took her advice and went ahead and did it. And it was a good choice for me at that time. When I graduated from college, I immediately got employed. I had taken my natural gifts and made it work for myself. And then a few years after getting married, my husband became ill. And when he passed away, I had a great job. I had sustainable wages. I continued on my path doing what I did. And I decided to go and get my master's a little while later. And the school system in which I worked paid for part of your education if you wanted to go back to school to get your master's, because they really wanted all their teachers to have their master's degree. So the only choices they would give us were those masters in our area. So it was either art education, I could get a master's, or in practical arts, which meant you would just draw and paint, period. So I did the art education, and I said to myself, okay, what am I going to do with this? What else could I do? And eventually I decided to go get a second master's. And this master's was in administration, supervision, to be a principal or assistant principal or director of a program. And when I did that, I had actually gotten that from George Mason. I'm a product of an HBCU school. My undergraduate was at Virginia State. And the other two degrees were at VCU and George Mason. So my school system, they liked me, they promoted me, they made me department chair. And at that point, I started making friends with other department chairs. and I made it my business to go around and see what was going on in the other departments. My department was fairly large. I had 2 computer labs in my department, even though it was art. So we were really into animation, computer graphics, digital photography, and the other departments, like the business department, they too had a computer lab. The chemistry department had a computer lab. So I wanted to see what they were doing in their labs. And when I did, I noticed there weren't a lot of children of color in those classes, just like in my department. It was really kind of like gleaming. And I said to myself, we are pretty diverse at this school. It's a large school. It's a great school. We rank pretty high, and throughout the United States. Why am I only seeing 1 or possibly 2 children of color? And I said to myself, I need to do something. I was pretty active with my department. I had grown my department to 6 art teachers, which is pretty astounding for a public school to have 6 teachers that taught art. So I gathered the parents in the community together. We started a booster club to take trips with our students to kind of foster some of their interests, develop some really super programs. And I said to the president of the boosters, what if I did a summer program at one of the community colleges nearby? Could I take some of those funds? She said, yeah, there are funds. Let's do it. So I went on my way. I started visiting the community colleges, seeing what the space looked like, how much it would cost. And I met a gentleman who wanted me to meet the provost at one of the community colleges and the gentleman that ran the community-based organization at the college. And when I met him, the community-based organizer, he said, if you become a nonprofit to yourself, we would love to partner with you. And what that meant was bringing students from our school to the local community college. Well, when I did that, what I noticed was that the students that were coming out of high school who didn't have any technical background were finding themselves needing a lot of remedial assistance. They weren't ready to do some of the coursework that were required to take the computer classes. So I made up my mind then it was time to go back to the schools, try to develop those skills with the students and prepare them to exit high school, whether they were going to attend a 4-year university, a 2-year college, or a technical school, or go straight to work. At least they would be armed with some technology skills so that they could be successful and make livable wages.
So a couple of questions for you. So when you noticed that there were very few students of color in those classes, the tech classes, was that because the students were able to choose whether they took those particular courses, or were they not being selected? Were they not being given the option to pursue those classes?
I don't know if they were given. I was not there when they made those decisions. But to me, if they're not exposed to it, if the information is not shared with them, then they don't get the information. And a lot of times young people tend to gravitate towards that which is right in front of them. And a lot of students love to use their telephones. They think that that's the end all and be all. And what I like to stress with them is that you need to use technology to make money, to earn a living, and that the social aspect is fine and dandy. So you have to learn to pair it. You got to meet them where they are. You have to kind of change the mindset. So in my program, what I've done is we give each student an account. And with that account, it allows them to go into our system in a private room to collaborate among their peers, to share some of their technology that they've learned, to problem solve some of the things that they may not know with one another, have discussion boards and things like that, and also take virtual field trips so that they can see what's going on in the real world, how technology is used, even the technology that they're learning in the online classroom. so that it becomes real to them, and you kind of slowly evolve them and help them change their mindsets.
Absolutely. I think that's important, but I was just curious. It was certainly going to be very troubling to me if, well, I guess both instances, because certainly you wouldn't want them to just decide that they don't want to explore technology and kind of stay in some kind of safe, familiar area, because we know as the adults and as the educators what they're going to need in the real world. So you wouldn't want to let them just stay there. But I also was worried about whether certain students were handpicked for those programs, which is another problem in and of itself. So that's why I was asking that question.
Well, that's a good question. So let me answer that question the best I can. I feel as though some students are led to certain classes. And when you find that there's such a large disparity between one group and another group, you sort of get the inclination that might be going on. So in my mind, it was important to try to do something about it. And if you capture them while they're in school, then they can make those decisions for themselves. Okay, I took this class at Quantum Studios. Next year, I'm going to try computer graphics or something else. Maybe something in the business department. I just want them to get exposed to it so that they can figure their own niche, because the other thing is too, like I said earlier on, my natural ability was art. A lot of these kids are coming out, their natural abilities are working with math, sciences. If they pair it with the technology, wow, they're going to fly as soon as they hit post-secondary. They're on their way.
Absolutely. And then even, for students that might be interested in art the way you were, I mean, marrying art and technology is very powerful too.
Especially when you're talking about the opportunity to work in film,
exactly,
or cartooning, design industry, architecture, fashion. It's like taking your skills and putting it on steroids, because now you're able to use a tool that can quicken your pace and make it happen a lot faster.
Absolutely. Now, I wonder when you initially launched Quantum Studios, when that educator told you that they would love to partner with you creating your program, did you continue in your position as an educator within the school system, or did you just strike out on your own and devote your attention 100% to Quantum Studios?
I stayed with the school system another 2 years, and then it was time for me to retire.
Okay.
And I started on my way. And actually, when I retired is when I broke away from the community college. My institution became certified by the state of Virginia. We have the SHEV certification, so that adults that want to take our programs, when they do, they can get certificates and diplomas. And then I started working backwards. That's when I started pedaling backwards and saying, I've got to go back to the schools. I got to help train them before they leave, in order to have more students having those skills that they need to do well after high school.
Well, describe the programs that you offer and how students can access them, how they can integrate them with school. They have schoolwork to do, of course. So how they're able to do work in your program as well at the same time.
Okay, so we have I have a number of classes. We have coding, regular coding, block coding for the younger students. We have Python, robotics, 3D printing, digital music, graphic design, and app development.
Wow. Now, and so this is year round. This isn't just a summer program or something like that.
It's a year-round program. We have two opportunities. Students can take our classes on Saturdays. And if they take them on Saturdays, it runs for 8 weeks, or 8 classes every Saturday for 8 consecutive Saturdays. And then if they choose to take it during the week, even though they have a lot of schoolwork, We start our programs around 5 in the evening and run them till about 9, different classes. The classes run about an hour. The younger students, about 45 minutes. We found that that was enough time for them to be on the computers. Those classes run for 16 classes. So it will be 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, until the end of the month of 16 classes. So 4 weeks, 4 days a week, 16 classes. And then we start over again.
Okay. And so how has the pandemic, how has that affected? Have you gotten more students or fewer students? And how have you had to adapt
I sort of lost you a
your
little bit.
program?
Okay. So what we're finding is that the pandemic has affected our enrollment. Students sometimes don't want to take classes, so the enrollment goes up and down. We're finding that we partner with a lot of organizations, and that seems to help with our enrollment, bringing it up. I think when students go back into the classroom, they won't mind being on the computer, taking the technology classes more, like they did earlier on with the adults. The adults really like taking face-to-face classes. And the students, I think they'll like taking more of the computer classes once they're back in the classroom.
So, and that you bring up something very interesting, because I was wondering, with them certainly spending so much time this year at home, glued to the screens, because that's how school is being administered right now. I was wondering if there was burnout and whether there was as much interest in taking the classes. But you're sounding like maybe there still was interest. There still is interest.
There still is interest. I think what has helped is having some time to interact with each other online. So when they get inside the chat rooms, the online accounts that they have, and they share their work, they stay on there a long time. So they're interacting, they're collaborating. So that's fun for them. I think that when it's totally in isolation, where they're just interacting with the teacher, I think that can become a little mundane. But I think the fact that we offer them an opportunity to collaborate with one another has helped. Bringing that on board was really a good push towards keeping their interest in the technology.
So prior to the pandemic, say, you didn't necessarily have the chat rooms.
No. I had to think of something else to do to keep them interested.
So let me just say hello. Thanks, Daryl. One of our viewers said this was sounds like a great platform that you have there. So
Thank you.
yeah. So where can parents learn more about your program and signing their children up for it?
They can go to our website, which is quantumstudios.org, and Quantum is spelled with an O. So it's QUANTOMSTUDIOS.org. We're a nonprofit. You can also give us a call, which is 703-969-4880. And we have Facebook. You can check out our Facebook, and that would be facebook.com/Quantum Studios. And our Instagram is instagram.com/Quantum_Studios.
Okay. And so I want to make sure that I have the telephone number again, because I'm going to drop that in the chat afterwards, because there'll be some people that will catch this on replay. So what was the phone number again that they could call?
703-969-4880.
4880. So now, prior to the pandemic, did you have any kind of in-person learning, or has it always taken place with them signing in to your platform?
Prior to the pandemic, we were located at some housing developments in and around the Northern Virginia area. Right now, we are starting to partner with other centers, community centers in Northern Virginia. So we'll be offering classes there once we finish with the process. we'll also be located in Maryland. We're working on that, getting a space there. So
Mhm.
we'll be located in at least two places in the area by the time we're finished with the pandemic.
Okay, that's pretty good. And so, so then people, well, hopefully they're talking about many people being able to have the vaccine by May. So, I mean, there could be hope for this summer. I don't know, but
I'm thinking, I'm thinking maybe January next year. I'm a little gun shy.
uh-huh.
I just want to be very careful.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I mean, it sounds like you've found a way to really continue delivering these courses.
I'm enjoying the
Hmm.
online service. I'm
Right.
enjoying that building up, and doing very well. I
Hmm.
think that it is the way of the future. I think students are going to have to get used to learning online,
Hmm.
taking their studies, using their time a little differently.
Hmm.
And even when we return back to face with their education,
Hmm.
I think this is going to be a good way for them to learn. Look, a lot of students, when they graduate from high school and they go into a career, they will look at learning online as a gift because most of them will be actually working from online,
Hmm.
interacting with the world. And
Right.
what a better way to have a career where you can work from any location. You could take a vacation, go to
Hmm.
a warmer climate,
Hmm.
and open up your computer and do business.
Right.
Um, so I think it's a plus.
Yes, and I think that in a lot of ways, I mean, it's hard to see right now, and especially because this situation that we're in right now also involves sickness and loss, that it definitely is hard to look at it that way. But I'm really hoping that, particularly with the children, because this has really been just an unusual experience for them. I mean, and I think it's, such that they'll remember this. Like, how did you spend, what did you do during the pandemic? Kind of like where we have those moments, like, where were you when such and such happened? They're going to look back on this as really quite a seminal moment in their lives. And so I do hope that they're able to walk away with something, like you said, maybe being able to navigate better, more effectively in technology, both for their education as well as their careers, and then, of course, thanks to people like you, allowing them to get the skills that they need so that they can really harness the benefits of technology and not feel dominated by technology.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I think if they could develop a mindset where this is their future,
Yes.
as opposed to using their phone as their only source of interaction with technology, that the computer and the skills that they learn will take them very far. I
Hmm.
think that they will adapt better. I think they'll really enjoy it.
Yes, when I talk a lot to parents about parenting in the digital age, I talk about the importance of teaching their children that technology is a tool and sometimes it is a toy, meaning entertainment, but it should never be a tyrant. Like, we should always be in control of how we use technology and be able to control our desires and reliance upon it. Like, we should sometimes turn it off, and we ought to be able to have that inner discipline to do that. So I think that, again, education is really key, and I thank you for doing that, for providing that. It's just so beneficial.
Thank you. It's a passion. It's become a
Yes.
passion.
Uh-huh. Well, that's great. Anything else that you would like to let anyone know? I don't, if you have any kind of new classes or any kind of event coming up that you just would like for people to know about, feel free to share.
Well, we are registering now for April.
Okay.
So if anyone wants to come on board, now's the time to register. We will be posting some of our online field trips So folks can catch a glimpse of that, and maybe that'll help them make a decision that this might be something that their child can benefit from.
And we didn't talk about it very much. We didn't specify earlier. This is K through 12.
This is K through 12. Yeah, our program is K through 12. Most of our classes are geared towards middle through high school. We do offer the block coding for kids K through 6th grade, which was developed out of MIT. And it's a fun way to learn how to code. The students learn how to make cartoons. So it's interesting. It gets them hooked into coding so that they'll want to continue. It's fun. Lots of fun.
Okay, well, that is great to hear. So again, it's for those who are viewing, if you're coming in a little bit late, visit www.quantumstudios.org, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so that's QUANTOM Studios, STUDIOS. And I will drop it in the chat as well as the phone number if you would like to get in contact with Phyllis, Lacey, and her team. She is now accepting registrations for April. So you would be able to get your child in, try it out, and hopefully this is something that your child will just want to keep doing. And as she told you, it's year round, or if you wanted to just do summer, whatever, I think they will be happy to have you. So Phyllis, thank you so much for joining me. I really just am committed to giving parents tools. I like to tell them about people that are doing interesting things. In particular, during this pandemic, I'm just trying to come up with ideas because I know parents are just trying to figure out how to keep their children engaged and just feeling positive. And
I just want to thank you for having me. Yeah, it's important. I take my hat off to you. You're doing an excellent job with your program, and I appreciate you having me.
Sure. And you're welcome to come back anytime if there's something else that you would like to share with our community.
Thank you. I will.
All right. So everybody, you have a great evening, and I'll probably be coming back on to talk with you all, if not tomorrow, early next week, to share with you what we're going to be doing next week on the Parenting 411 show. I'll give you a sense of who my guest is and maybe who my guests will be over the next couple of months. So thank you again for watching, and you all have a good night.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.